We got to work on being less morally scrupulous.
Yeah, our podcast would do better.
I mean, I don't know if our podcast would do better, Danielle. No, I was saying we could actually start an enterprise that would make money rather than this thing.
Well, we didn't do it to make money, so our motivations were wrong.
I know. That's
Think what we could do if we actually decided to make money, Sam.
That's my point. We already discussed that. It would be something duplicitous and under.
It would be dog security for malls.
Hello and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Sam.
I'm Danielle.
And this is the podcast about sharing your weird media finds with your friends who don't know what you're talking about. But you do know what we're talking about, Danielle, or you should. Well, maybe not. It's been a while.
It's been so long.
It's been so long. The holidays came.
All the holidays in La Pluie.
Yeah. What an adventure we've had, Danielle.
This is so long. I'm so scared.
Do you even remember the name of what we're doing?
Hyperion 3.
Nope. No.
The name of the guy that is also the city. What is the name? Oh my god.
Oh. You really don't remember the name of this.
Terrible. I will come to it. Give me a second.
All right.
Does it help?
Who said I was helping?
Oh my god. I know I can't remember. I'm sorry.
It's Endymion.
Oh, Endymion. Yeah, I knew that.
Do you remember what part we're on at least?
Part 4?
4. Very good.
Okay, see, I didn't lose everything.
All right, well, let's see how much you remember from part 3 then, Danielle.
Nothing. I don't remember anything.
That's an inauspicious beginning.
Okay, so at one point they went to... Wait, was it in part 3 that they made it to the tomb where she was... What's-her-face was coming out?
That was part 2.
That was part 2. So she came out. And
yeah, way past that.
And I don't know what happens after that. What happens after that, Sam? Give me some clues.
All right.
It's been like 2 months.
They escape.
I figured. Oh, and they're like shooting through space multiple times, and they're playing like
right.
chicken with the other group, the government.
Oh boy. So
where they keep popping into space, and the other
they make exactly 2 hops through space.
Yeah, they make 2 hops through space, and then the government people, the Catholic-ish government people. What's his name?
Father Captain de Soya.
Yeah. Okay. Stupid name. And
what?
Father Captain.
He's a father captain. He's like a priest,
I get
military
why it's called
rank.
Father Captain. It's a dumb name, and that is why I can't remember it.
It's not his name. It's his rank,
It's
Danielle.
dumb.
His name is Federico de Soya.
The title is dumb. Like the whole title, all of it.
You know, if there was a Catholic military, they would use ranks like Father Captain.
They would, and it's dumb.
Okay.
So Father Captain de Soya is in charge of the government warships or whatever that's trying to get what's-her-face back.
Okay. You're so... I don't know if you're conflating like 3 or 4 things together into one, but kind of.
So there's 2 stops that they make, and they don't catch them because they don't plot. And
the end. Great.
They go swimming. Is that one? Is that in 3?
That happened. So who goes swimming, Danielle?
Okay. See, I was making sure I was in the right part of my brain for that. Anyway, so isn't most of it just like them cavorting around the ship for like half of that story?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's why I can't remember it. So that's not fair. There's nothing that happens. They're just like in a ship, and they're going through space, and they're traveling to wherever they're going. I don't even remember.
Pavardi, I think.
Sure. And
was the first place, Pavardi.
And I remember that the author makes a big deal out of them. It's not gross that the Endymion and the girl. What's the girl's name, Sam?
You remember the girl's name?
Why? I couldn't remember
Aenea.
Endymion's name. Aenea.
Do you remember Endymion's first name?
Raul.
Raul. Yeah, very good.
Like Paul.
It's Paul with an R.
Raul.
There you go. I got you to keep that one.
So Raul.
Not hard at all. It's very simple. It's roll.
Roll. My mouth does not make that noise. Roll.
It's not Raul. It's roll.
I know it's not Raul, but I can't say Raul.
How can you not say like Paul? You just don't close your mouth. You just make an R sound and go roll.
It just sounds wrong in my brain. It makes my mouth not want to do it. Putting the R in that place in my mouth is really hard for me.
Good to know. Thank you. This is Linguistics with Danielle.
I do like linguistics. Anyway, so trying to make Endymion and Aenea not be creepy when they're swimming together naked was a feat
well,
that he was trying to
not
accomplish.
naked, to be clear.
Okay,
Just,
Aenea is, and it's like, he's very, very clear. They are not into each other, okay? They will be later, but they're not now.
Yeah, and we'll get to that too in this episode.
So they swim together, they talk about stuff. She's kind of an adult, but still a kid because she gets teary-eyed.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for an architect?
Yes,
because
she wants to find
her divine job is to be an architect.
Yep.
And so she's...
And not a metaphorical architect, a literal architect.
Yeah, she is literally supposed to be an architect as the chosen one.
Do you remember where she said they're going to find the architect?
Along the river Tethys?
Tethys, right,
Tethys.
From mythology. Tethys.
Yeah, sure, that. And we're a little confused about how that's flowing, considering none of the portals are open, but did we learn more?
We'll get into that too.
Yay, great. And so they're like
don't
searching.
We'll get into the answers, Danielle. We're getting into more questions.
That's okay. They're searching along the river because the architect is supposed to be somewhere along there.
All right, so
that's the plot.
That's very good, Danielle.
That was pretty good.
I'm going to fill in a few blanks.
That was really,
good.
really good.
So I'm just going to fill in a few small blanks. So Father Captain Soya is in his Archangel ship, which goes super fast, with his 3 Swiss Guard companions.
Mm-hmm.
Only one of whose name's important is Gregorius, who's like the sergeant and the main guy. Anyway, they're waiting for them for party. They try to capture them. Aenea bluffs them that she'll kill them all if they don't let her go.
Right.
So they do, and they follow her to Renaissance Vector. So as your point was, like, what's even the point if they can just follow them everywhere and get ahead of them?
Right.
So it's all like...
just constant bluffing.
Yeah, so they follow the Renaissance Vector, where Soya gets there again earlier and sets up with the rest of the fleet, this time trying to do a big old capture. But Aenea, again, sort of bluffs her way, like she's, okay, I'll land, just let me land my ship, and then she drifts the ship over the city and into the Farcaster portal on the river. The ship takes damage and they crash on some weird planet, and that's where you leave. No, they crash on some weird planet.
They travel a little bit on the planet.
Right, so they go, Raul and Aenea go exploring downriver, try to see if they can find the other end of the portal where they'll go to the next planet. And as they're out there, they get a call from, who's the other person with them?
Don't know.
You don't remember our favorite android?
Bettik.
A. Bettik. Yes, the letter A. As opposed to M. Endymion, like Mr. Endymion. A. Bettik for android.
Bettik. Not B. Bettik.
Yes, not B. Bettik. Not be best, A. Bettik.
Doing good with the names, except Endymion, the name of the book.
Or Aenea, or Soya. You did well with 1.5 names, let's be honest. Maybe 3/4 of a name total. Let's be honest. Because you got like Endymion, you didn't get Raul, and you got Bettik, but not without some help.
No, you said it was our favorite android or whatever you said, and I said, hey, Bettik.
You didn't remember he was there, though.
No, not at all.
All right. So he had a call from A. Bettik, and what does Bettik tell them?
That they're
so like, one other character in this book, Danielle.
Trouble.
Why? Why might there be trouble? One other character in this book.
Because it's a book.
Who's the other character in this book that everyone loves?
The Martin Salinas.
No.
He was in it, though.
I said everyone loves this person.
I love Martin Salinas. He's one of my favorite characters.
You hated him in the last book.
I mean, I hate him, but I, love to hate him. He's like a lovable, hateable character.
It's the Shrike, Danielle.
Oh, yeah. It's a character, but it's more of a, I don't know, bigger than a character.
A force of nature?
A force of nature.
A force of plot.
The Shrike. Sorry, the Shrike. I forgot that
the Shrike showed up.
Traveling.
Standing on the beach.
And they're going to road trip?
Well, we're going to get to that.
Yay, road trip.
We return and resume this part as Raul and Aenea rush back to the ship because A. Bettik's like, the Shrike is here, and he just disappeared.
A. Bettik is there. No, the Shrike is there to bring some road trip jams.
Yes, he's brought the mixtape. So they rush back to the ship, but the Shrike is already gone. Apparently, it just stood around for like a second, warped into an otherwise inaccessible part of the ship, and then vanished. So... yay! Very climactic.
So he just went into another part of the ship, and then left.
Yeah, it did absolutely nothing.
Did he take something from the other part of the ship?
No.
He just went there for funsies? Use the bathroom?
He went into, like, the, some part of the hyperdrive, I think, and then disappeared.
He was like...
Hawking Drive, sorry.
Hanging out.
Just checking up on things, like, yep, this is a ship, and then left.
I wonder what it feels like in here. Oh, okay, bye.
So, Raul asks if the Shrike has ever left Hyperion before, and Aenea and A. Bettik say there's a record of it. And Aenea certainly hoped that the Shrike wouldn't leave Hyperion or couldn't.
But are they on Hyperion now?
No.
So why is the Shrike there?
The who?
Why is the Shrike there?
Very different. Very different characters.
Can I imagine I'm really tired?
Equally powerful and terrifying, but very different.
I've had a rough several months, and
haven't we all, Danielle? But we're back. We gotta do it. That's the question, Danielle. Why did the Shrike appear there? How did it escape Hyperion? All answers that I do not have for you.
Great. Looking forward to it.
As a side note, Raul was surprised the ship managed to measure the Shrike as weighing a little over a metric ton, which is stupid. Because, as Bettik points out, the Shrike is a 9-foot-tall, 4-armed monster made of metal and who knows what else. It can be a bit heavy.
He's 90 feet tall.
9.
Oh, I was like, whoa, wait, that's way different than my brain.
No, 9 foot tall, Danielle.
I thought I missed something.
No, but my point is, a 9-foot-tall metal monster can weigh a ton. That does not stretch credulity for me, but
no, it doesn't.
But Raul was like, "Wow, that's really impressively dense." Like, no, like if I had a block of metal that was like 9 foot tall, like a meter square, it would be way more than a ton.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's probably made out of other stuff too.
Yeah, super advanced magic technology. Point is, as we'll learn, the theme of this particular episode is that Raul is a moron. I think.
Oh, good. I mean, he's a hero, so.
Is he? We'll get to this, too.
Oh, Martin, what did you do?
So the ship has no clue where they are, and will need 6 months to repair itself. Just reiterating that.
6 months to repair itself?
Yep.
Well, that's a long time.
It is. So, since the flybikes were damaged in the crash, there were apparently flybikes on the ship. That's good to know.
Aren't they going to be used later? Why did we need to know that?
We just need to know that they were there, and we can't use them because they're broken. Okay. So he introduced a solution and immediately broke it.
Nobody is like, well, what about the flybikes?
I swear. The other theme of this chapter is how much I'm skipping over because it is useless information that is... I have thoughts later. I'll get into it. So many thoughts later. But for now, this is a sample of the kind of inanity and useless detail that is given.
Unless they use those later. One of my favorite things about Mr. Simmons here is that he loves to introduce information that has absolutely no bearing on anything. And it's just like, in case you were wondering if there was another way they could have traveled, it was damaged.
Yeah,
even though nobody was wondering that.
And I'm all for world building and verisimilitude and making things more realistic, but you have to know when to edit things for the sake of brevity and story and pacing.
Nope. He and his editor were on the same page.
You assume he had an editor, Danielle. I think he was his own editor.
Yeah, I either think he didn't have an editor, or he edited himself, or he and his editor were best friends.
That'd be so cute.
Or maybe the editor just gave up and was like, whatever, Dan,
I like the idea
you do you.
Best friends Dan, I can't wait to read the next chapter. It's all perfect. It's amazing. Don't change a thing. You're my favorite. It's just some
friend that you're having it edit, quote unquote.
That'd be so cute. I would love that. That'd be adorable.
It's I already did real well with Hyperion, so whatevs. I don't need to edit the rest of these. They'll be fine.
You read one of those Hyperion books. You tell me how much needed to be edited out.
That was Hyperion 2, Shrike Boogaloo.
The Fall of Hyperion.
Yeah, Hyperion 2.
Sure.
You want from me, Sam? They're never ending.
How do you think I feel, Danielle?
We haven't gotten more than 2 pages in, have we?
This is my second paragraph.
Perfect. Continue. Stop talking.
No, I'm going to need you on this one, Danielle.
I'm already mad about this.
So, since the flybikes were damaged in the crash, they can't take those downriver. So Aenea suggests that the next day they build a raft from the trees, which he insists on calling gymnosperms continuously.
I forgot about that.
So they go down just below the waterfall that they found while they were looking out earlier, and they build a raft down there and basically Huck Finn it down the river.
Hey, that's fun.
Yeah. That night, they camp out on the beach. Bettik keeps watch as he needs very little sleep as an android, so apparently androids have all kinds of superpowers we'll learn about later, he can hold his breath a bit longer than people, and his skin can act like a pressure suit briefly that keeps him from dying in thin atmospheres for a short amount of time, so they're like superheroes, which is cool.
Sure.
So Bettik keeps watch, and Aenea asks Raul to tell ghost stories around the fire, which he refuses to do because he's lame.
He's just no ghost stories for you, little child woman.
Basically. He's like, no ghost stories. She's like, fine, and goes to sleep. And he watches her fall asleep and says, or narrate, I quote, I think it was on this alien and storm-tossed night that I first understood what it might be like to be a parent.
No.
And I will remind you that he and Aenea are destined to be lovers. And the narrator,
so gross.
which is future, maybe present, Raul, he knows that they are lovers. And he is yet including this particular line. Why? Why? Why is Simmons doing this to him? He didn't need to make this whole, like, paternal relationship to lovers thing happen. Like, he could just have them be lovers later, or, like, her being an adult now, or, maybe he doesn't have paternal feelings for her. Maybe he's just, like, doesn't feel anything towards her. I don't know. But
is there a reason she's a child? Like, did it add anything to the story?
I don't know. But I'm just basing it off of, like, the standard trope of, like, children representing innocence, children representing, the future and the continuation of humanity and potential and all that kind of things that children represent. But she's also supposed to be, like, the special child, like the whole special child trope about, like, the magic child is a big thing. So I think there's that to it, too. But, like, the Matrix didn't need a magic child. Neo was the one, he wasn't a child, and it worked fine, guys.
Or it could have been an older child, 16, 17, still a child, but, like, at least bordering on adulthood.
Yeah. Or, like, just not have him know they were going to become lovers and not make that a thing until it was later and he was surprised and it was like a whole, like, this is a new person to him.
Sure.
But no, he has to have a paternal relation to her now, and I hate it.
That's totally fair.
All right. So anyway, the next day they gather provisions and Raul finds a cargo vest that Aenea immediately puts on because fashion. And it reminded me that he made a big deal about bringing and packing that tricorn hat, and it hasn't been brought up since. And I'll be very upset if that tricorn hat does not make a reappearance.
I love the idea that you're reading this novel. She puts on a little vest and you're like, tricorn hat.
That's exactly what I thought. I read this. I'm like, oh, he found a vest to go with his hat. And then she takes, I'm like, oh, but wait a minute. Where's that hat going to go?
How mad you are about this hat.
Well, it's like you and the fly bike. You said I think the hat actually matters.
Why does it exist?
Exactly. So while searching his supplies, Raul is disappointed that he can't find the emergency raft listed in the ship's supplies. Like, it's not there. So you have to build one.
I assume the Shrike took it when he went into the...
No. No, the Shrike did absolutely nothing because
he's not going to come on his own raft that he stole to, like, come visit with them.
Nope. The ship mentions that it has a vague memory of the console floating away down a river, but one where the stars could be seen shining from below the river, which is obviously like an ouster space colony thing, like they talked about in the previous book.
Sure.
So the console floated away down an ouster colony on the raft, and
are the ousters
that's why
in
they don't
this
have
book?
it.
I like the ousters.
Not yet.
Do they come in later?
I don't remember. I mean, I'm 100% certain the ousters reappear in this story. I don't know if it's this book or the next one.
Okay.
Anyway, they get all the supplies to just below the waterfall, and the ship agrees to bury itself in the riverbed underwater to hide and repair itself until they return for it.
The ship can move on its own?
Yeah. I mean, it still can fly around and move a little bit. It's not like it's completely destroyed.
It's like
it just is not
dog.
like... It can, like, wiggle its way into the river, apparently.
Oh, how cute.
So then Raul asks if the ship will leak underwater, which is moronic since it's a spaceship. Which the ship reminds Raul that, like, I'm a spaceship. If I would leak underwater, I could not go into space. And again, I'm really beginning to doubt Raul's competence.
Well, did he have any background on anything?
I mean, again, Danielle, this is about, like, critical thinking skills. You don't need to be a spaceship engineer to realize that a spaceship can't leak in space and also then leak underwater.
I'm with you. I'm just curious if he had any kind of educational training in his
he seems to be, like,
future.
Fairly familiar with basic concepts like air.
Okay,
so
well then, it's on him.
Yeah. So they spend the rest of the day chopping trees and building the raft, and Raul speculates on how the pleasure craft that used to tour the River Tethys could deal with the waterfall. And maybe they're not actually on the River Tethys, but these portals are ones that were built by the Technocore that weren't originally part of the River Tethys, but took them to some place that's not, like, on the original river. And Aenea says she's, like, thought of that, but, there's no way to know, and maybe that the river shifted over time, or that there were locks or some other way that the ships could, like, hover their way down the waterfall, so who knows?
So they think that they...
There's nothing conclusive here. They're just speculating wildly about nothing.
No, but the original that they built other portals? What?
No. So So Raul is like, hey, there's a waterfall on the river, and a pleasure craft couldn't, like, go over a waterfall without crashing. Like, you wouldn't want to have a waterfall on your, sedate cruise. So maybe these are not
the original
portals. Yeah, these are ones that the AI built. Like, maybe they built more portals that were never part of the original River Tethys, and we're on one of these new worlds.
Okay, sure.
But in the end, they're like, yeah, maybe, or maybe they were just like the river changed in the last 300 years, or maybe they have a technological way of solving this problem that we don't know about because they had flying spaceships. So who knows?
Could you see the portals before? Are they like physical?
Yeah, they're giant like arches. Think of like I imagine like the arch in St. Louis.
Sure. So
and then you go under them and they open up like a giant portal.
Is the river still flowing through giant arches?
Yes, but they're not on.
Right.
So we'll get to this.
So if the river migrated, why would there still be arches over the river?
Like maybe in the middle of the river. Like there's like a couple hundred kilometers between the...
Okay, sure. Okay.
I don't know.
Sorry, I got stuck on it.
These are not the details that matter, but Simmons includes them. But Simmons includes them anyway, so here we are, Danielle.
Just to annoy me.
I know. By the evening, they're ready to set off down the river, figuring if they run into any issues on other planets, like, hey, maybe more waterfalls, they'll figure it out then. As they float downriver, a massive storm kicks up with lightning and giant waves whipped up by the wind. They huddle on a makeshift shelter they built from the tent on the raft and hold onto their gear as best they can until Aenea starts yelling, Yee-haw! And then Raul and Bettik join in. They're all shouting Yee-haw as they ride the waves.
Fun. He loves to add weird details like that.
It's so weird. But in the morning, the storm clears up. So that was just an excuse to get them all yelling yeehaw.
Like, there was no reason for the storm.
They didn't even lose any, like, provisions that mattered. Like, they lost, like, one thing of rations. Like, nah, it's fine. We're fine. It doesn't matter.
What if there was a storm that did nothing? That sounds like a good idea. I'm going to put it in.
So Raul finally pulls his tricorn cap from his pocket, so I am vindicated.
Yay!
Which may have been a good head covering to wear during the storm, but what do I know?
No, it's going to get filled with water.
But it has like the little cutout so it can drain.
Oh, good.
Right? Did that have like the folds and like the corners so it can drain out the corners?
Would he be afraid it was going to get lost in the storm?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I think I'd rather have something covering my head than nothing.
I suppose.
When he puts it on, Aenea rightly laughs at him. And so,
says the girl in the weird cargo vest.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, her fashion sense is not any better. As they round a bend in the river, the arch for the Farcaster looms into view. They approach, and as before, just as they are about to enter it, it crackles to life and they zip through the portal.
Ooh, mysterious.
They find themselves on a massive ocean as far as the eye can see. It's night, and 3 massive orange moons are rising into the sky.
Is it the toilet ocean?
Yes. After checking with the comm log bracelet that has a copy of the ship's memory bank, Bettik concludes they're on. Do you remember the name of this planet?
The toilet planet.
It's very obvious what the planet of infinite ocean is called.
Something C. Mare.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, forget the first part, right?
C. Mare?
Yeah, Mare. Yeah.
Marland?
It was Mare Infinitus.
Mare Infinitus. I went Spanish instead of Latin.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a packed world these days, of course. Aenea just silently watches the massive moons rise, while Bettik exposits that actually, Mare Infinitus is the moon of a Jovian-sized planet. Raul also brought a book, A Traveler's Guide to the River Tethys, which states that Mare Infinitus portion is a brief interlude between the more recreation-oriented parts of the river.
Where did he get that from?
He brought it from the ship's library.
Did he know he was going to the river?
Yes, they talked about this. Remember, their long interludes of travel.
I mean, yes, I remember there were long interludes of travel. I do not remember what they talked about.
This is one of the things they talked about when he picked up this book.
Perfect.
I think I mentioned that. I don't remember. But anyway, I'm not sure I buy crossing part of an ocean as still being part of a river. So I'm not sure how that works. And so here's why I got hung up on the portals in the rivers, because I thought the water from the river ran through the portals in each segment of the River Tethys. Like, it ran, then you would follow it downriver. Like, there's a one giant river connected by the portals.
Right. And
I might be mistaken, and you read this book too, so you can back me up, but I thought the end of the last book of the Fall of Hyperion, when the Farcasters were destroyed, it caused like the river to flood or something happened to it. So how does the ocean work with the whole, like, river current thing? Like, the water flows into the ocean and then the ocean just flows back into the river? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Magic.
Or maybe the water just flows, like, through the portals and like through the arches, but not through the portal. Like the water doesn't get transported, just the people. Maybe that's how it works. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I hate this river.
But then how would the currents run if it's...
Because the river just runs like a normal river. You're just teleporting to a part of the river. Like you're teleporting in the middle of the river.
But then there's oceans in the middle of it for funsies?
Well, you're just teleporting in the middle of the ocean, and then you teleport out of the ocean back onto the river.
Sure.
Another river on another planet or something.
Sure.
But that's not what I remember happening in the end of the Fall of Hyperion when the Farcaster was destroyed. So maybe I need to go back and reread that, which I will not do. But
I think it's cute that you thought I would remember what happened to the river.
Well, I figured if there's one thing you remember from this, it would be the book you read.
That's funny.
Anyway, despite what the book says about Mare Infinitus section being short, the guidebook, they have no view of the portal that they're supposed to see about 5 kilometers away, and no idea where to go. It's a giant ocean, after all.
Yeah, that seems like a terrible way to travel.
So Aenea then claims she can tell Raul is enjoying this, and he admits it's because it's an adventure, but no one's gotten hurt. Which, what? Did he not see what the Shrike did at the time tube when he massacred all those
he means that none
soldiers?
Of them have gotten hurt.
None of the actual human beings, none of the NPCs as he views other people.
None of the main characters in the book have gotten hurt, Sam.
None of the 3 people on this raft have been hurt, so it's a good adventure. Like everyone else, screw them. Like, no, you're not a good... What a moron. But also, he likes camping and being outdoors. So Aenea decides this is the perfect time to get into some of the philosophy of her father's poetry.
Is it?
Yes.
The perfect time?
Yeah, apparently it is. Because I had just been thinking that we had surprisingly little poetry in this book, so I guess this is my own fault.
Keats.
She actually clarifies that it was actually the pre-Hegira poet that my father's Cybrid was cloned from, of course, but my father's sensibilities were in the poem, so she still refers to it as her father's poem anyway.
I don't understand the father thing, because she seems to think they're all her fathers, so... She
understands, like, she calls the other Keats Cybrid Severin, like, her uncle at one point, so she gets it, but she's like, they're also all the same person anyway, because they, like, she finds the Keatses to be fungible, essentially.
Yes, she does.
So she states that her father thought the first stage of human happiness was fellowship with essence, which is like art and nature and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She states that the second level was friendship between humans, and the highest level was love. And when Raul asks about, like, the general concept of love, like, quote, the love of Christ or the love of our fellow humans, Aenea is clear that she means romantic and sexual love.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Why not?
Screw the other loves.
You're right. They don't matter as much. I think they may be classified under friendship. So Raul then asks her, a 12-year-old girl, if she thinks her father was onto something about sexual love being the highest, like, order of happiness.
I'm sure she's very aware of that in her 12 years on Earth. Well, not Earth.
Right. Not her Hyperion.
The tombs floating through space. I don't know.
Time travel to the tombs. Her response is, quote, I think there are more levels on heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in my father's philosophy. Which is a quote that means nothing to Raul and is pointless.
Oh, gosh.
She concludes by saying that her father stopped his levels of happiness before he got to the real essence, which is, quote, the meaning of all motions, shapes and sounds, all form and substances, straight homeward to their symbol essences.
I literally just tuned out like half of what you said.
Yeah.
My brain was like, do-do-do-do-do.
Do you need me to repeat that?
Yeah, maybe.
She said, quote, the meaning of all motions, shapes, and sounds, all forms and substances, straight homeward to their symbol essences.
No.
And Raul narrates, quote, why were those words so familiar? It took me a while to remember. End scene.
Okay.
So because I cared, I took the effort of like
Google
searching for, yeah. And I found that oh boy, it's a poem. Is you not surprised?
Yeah, go figure. Shocking.
It's a poem that Martin Salinas recited earlier. Maybe it was passed off as an original poem, but guess how I found this poem?
Via Keats.com.
Close.
All Keats, everywhere, Keats.com.
No. I found a fan site of Martin Salinas.
KeatsAllTheWayDown.com.
No.
Which we should open up as a website.
KeatsAllTheWayDown.com. Sure. Get right on that. That's $15 a year well spent on a domain.
Totally worth it. Hey, if you want to support our Patreon.
Yeah, that's what we're going to buy with it.
We're going to buy KeatsAllTheWayDown.com.
No one will ever give us money for that. They'll take money away from us for that.
And I would give us money for that if I listened to us.
Anyway, the point is, this is a site where someone's collected all the poetry Martin recites.
That's amazing. Good job, person.
He's like, Hyperion, page 16. Here's a little poem. Hyperion, page 25. Endymion, page 160. Like,
Love
all the
that. Love that so much. Good use of time. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
These are supposedly, I assume they were supposed to be original poems, but they're all Keats or Chaucer poems, actually. None of them are actually original to Mr. Simmons, I believe.
That's impressive.
So...
Ooh, does that mean that he was just, taking other people's poetry and just assuming nobody in the New World would know that?
Salinas? No. I think maybe Simmons was I'm going to make him a vessel for Keats or whatever.
I like the idea that he was just, stealing other people's poetry the entire time. It was just, nobody will know.
The point is that Aenea recites this poem that was spoken by Martin Salinas to Endymion earlier in the book. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And I'm like, I not remember that. And to be fair, maybe if I had been reading this in a week or two, normal, instead of spreading out for months and months, I may have recalled that it was a poem. But I don't think I would have. I don't think I would remember that. I'm sorry.
There's so much poetry in this. You'd have to be really kind of paying attention.
Yeah, and I'm not.
Skimming the poems.
Anyway, I love the Martin Salinas poetry site, and I will send that to you later to enjoy.
Excellent. I'm very excited about this.
So they float around for a bit. The suns rise. Yes, there's two of them. It's a binary star system because why not?
Yeah, why not? That's the kind of details I need from my book, Mr. Simmons.
Oh, you're going to love later then. It gets very hot, so they just float around hoping the ocean current is taking them in the right direction. All right, it'll take us to the right place, sure. So the next 5 pages are just Raul going over in detail every gun he brought and then test firing all of them.
That's the kind of detail we don't need, Mr. Simmons.
And I do not care at all about the gun porn in this book. It's the most boring thing. Nobody cares. Move on. Get back to the weird stuff. So we do learn that the 45 caliber revolver he brought is actually probably not Bron Lamia's, as he had first assumed.
Oh, bummer.
So that whole speculation he had earlier in the ship while they were traveling was pointless.
It was unneeded.
Finally, Raul has the bright idea that maybe they should do some scouting and see if they can find the portals, not just floating around blindly.
Good idea.
Yeah. First good idea he's had all chapter. So he and Aenea, they get on the hawking mat, and they go have a look around. They fly super high up and bring up binoculars to look around. And while up there, Raul asks Aenea if she thinks there's any reason, any rhyme or reason to the order of the planets they're being sent to through the River Tethys journey.
Yes.
Aenea says she thinks there is, but does not elaborate.
I think there is, but there's also a, I'm going to say 12% chance that it's completely random because that's how he writes.
I think there's an 80% chance that it's not random, but we never learn what the pattern is.
I think that's also correct. You can add that on to my 12%.
There's only an 8% chance we learn what the purpose of this journey is and what the order means. Great.
That seems accurate.
Okay. So instead of going into detail about this pattern, she reminds us, the audience, by way of asking Raul what he knows about the Farcasters and how they work. So it's hey guys, let me tell you what happened in the last book, just to remind you.
Audience surrogate.
So here we go. What he knows is that the AIs built the Farcasters to use human brains as computers, so when they use the portals, they would parasite their brains and steal computational power from them.
Sure.
She talks about the 3 AI factions. Do you remember what those are, Danielle?
They're so close to my brain.
I'll give you a hint. Horses.
Equestrian.
Horses live in...
fields and barns.
No? I mean, yes, but where do you keep a horse?
In a stall.
How are you not getting this word? Let's never play taboo. You'll never work.
Those are all good answers.
The answer is stable, Danielle.
Stable. Oh yeah.
It's a better answer, right?
It is.
Yeah. So there are the stables.
There's something bigger than a stall. It's just my brain wasn't getting there.
So you got the stables and
the violent ones.
Opposite of stable.
Unstable.
Unstable would be the word. But no, it's the volatiles.
Oh, volatile. I was I started with a V.
I remember the last one is called. You should know this one.
Okay, so volatile, stables, and the medium ones.
The ultimates.
You know what? I think the reason that those confuse me is because I have an immediate flashback to the gods themselves.
Oh.
And I get this weird trilogy thing going on in my head where I'm what were they called?
The hard ones and the soft ones.
Yeah, that's that whole thing. And so it really throws me off because I'm wait, they merged in my brain. It's a real problem. problem.
That was literally like 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
I know, but it just like it's immediately where my brain goes is
it's so impressive.
That weird...
You remember that, but you can't remember the book we read.
It's a lot of Hyperion. There was only one Asimov.
That's a fair point. Anyway, so the stables developed the Ultimates, and that the River Tethys Farcasters were actually not using human brains for computers, since they were built by the Ultimates as an experiment with the void which binds.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this seems to be recapping most of the last book about how all the planetary data spheres are connected to the megasphere through the void which binds. The megasphere existed on a subplane of the fat line, apparently.
Sure, why not?
Also, that the last message from the previous book where, like, it's like, hey, get off the fat line, this channel is closed until you learn how to use it properly.
No more fat line squirts for you.
Yeah, so then at the end of the last book, where kicking everyone off the void which binds and shutting down the fat line was not a message sent by the AIs, but by something different, which Aenea's father, or uncle, as she corrects herself, because this was Sever, not Johnny, referred to those creatures as lions and tigers and bears.
Oh my.
Yeah, exactly right. Because whenever they sing the Wizard of Oz
Yes,
song.
I do quite remember that.
Mm-hmm. They then go back to the raft, not having found the Farcaster portal and having accomplished nothing but this conversation. So, thank you for that.
That was helpful.
Helpful to remind you what happened in the last book, I suppose.
I appreciate that. For all listeners out there, if you're curious what happened in the last book,
just go back and listen to the previous episodes.
It's not quicker than reading the book, but it's a lot more fun.
It's quicker than reading the book, for sure.
All our previous episodes?
I mean, it's like, 6 hours of Hyperion per... 6 to 8 hours of Hyperion per...
How long did it take you? It did not take me 8 hours to read Hyperion 2.
I guess it's about longer, but I think it's more intelligible.
Yes. Ours. You meant our podcast episodes are more intelligible.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Much easier to understand. Because I'm assuming you have to read Hyperion like 2 or 3 times to understand it.
At least. Probably more.
Yeah, so it's going to triple your time right there.
Yeah. I would just ask you.
So, later that night, they see lights on the horizon. It's an ocean platform, like for sport fishing. Possibly PAX-controlled, they don't know. And gosh, wouldn't you know it? Just past the platform is the Farcaster Arch.
Oh, good.
So glad they drifted in the right direction.
Well, I mean, it's the only way to traverse these places is to just drift. Because otherwise, how would you ever get to the next Farcaster portal if you were just drifting?
I mean, I'm assuming they had a boat with a motor that could, propel itself in the right direction.
But you'd have to know which the direction is.
Again, they were supposed to be very close together, only 5 kilometers apart. And, I assume a boat has navigational tools like GPS and, compasses.
You just type in your 2 portal and it, Google Maps you there?
I mean, it's just like spaceship technology. They know how to travel from point A to point B.
How serious?
We can do that today. So how is hundreds and thousands of years in the future, is that not something that makes super easy to do?
Yeah, totally.
This is not difficult to figure out how to navigate the ocean. We can do that. And we're not spacefaring civilizations.
I just like the idea that this portals just drop you in the middle of the ocean. And they're like, good luck out there.
That's not what happens. And jumping to these guys, because they're on a raft made of logs. So they figure they'll have to sneak by the platform because they'll have a very hard time explaining to the people on the platform, hey, do you want us to rescue us? No, we don't need rescuing. Just let us go about our raft. That's not going to make any sense to them. Even if they're not a PAX patrol looking for them, it's going to be very suspicious.
It will be. It's true.
So Raul decides to take the hawking mat and some explosives to sneak onto the platform, look around, and maybe blow up some skimmers or something to cause a distraction if necessary while the raft floats past.
Creating a diversion. Love it.
Pretty much. So as he gets on the mat to go, take a look, and he expresses concern, be careful, that kind of thing. So he touches her on the shoulder and feels the contact like an electric jolt.
Ew.
An effect he'd felt when they had touched before, but not, he stresses, a sexual jolt.
He could just not have any of these things happening, and I don't think it'd be worse for wear for this book.
That's my point. Though, of course, it will be sexual. We know it's going to happen. I still don't know why Simmons did this to himself by writing it. You should not include any of this. You could have not mentioned it. They cannot have electric jolt touching while she's a child. I could just not be a part of the story. But no, he has to do that. And then but no, it's definitely not sexual. It's something deeper than that. Or I don't know. Why? Why are you making this so complicated on yourself?
Just static electricity.
Or yeah, he's it was just my sweater was getting staticky.
He thinks it's fate, but it's just because he has a pussy sweater on. It's that stupid cargo vest.
Cargo. Yeah, nylon cargo vest, very staticky. Anyway, Raul seeks out the platform, he plants some charges on skimmers, then goes to peek in the window, see if he can figure out who these people are, because he doesn't want to use the explosives if they're like families or just civilians here and not a PAX presence.
Where did A. Bettik go again?
He's on the raft with them.
You just haven't mentioned him in like 200 miles.
I mentioned him a lot, Danielle. I mentioned that he was yelling Yee-haw with them. I mentioned he's the one who concluded they were on Mare Infinitus.
Yeah, I skipped the Mare Infinitus part, but I did remember the Yee-haw now that you say that.
Yeah, so,
Just
pay
feels
attention.
like it's very focused on them, which to be fair, it's their
He does
story.
very little now. He's mostly there, again, for info dumping at this point.
Okay.
So he sees the mess hall with only men, but as he rounds a corner, he bumps into some PAX troops. Uh-oh.
That's not good.
They assume he's with one of the fishing groups, like the sport fishing groups, and that he should be inside since there's a curfew. They escort him off to a barracks. Uh-oh.
That's bad too.
Cut to everyone's favorite Father Captain Federico de Soya.
Yay, Father Captain.
They've been searching for some clue of Aenea for 63 days and visited 8 systems.
So they've been drifting for like...
No, they've been on the road for like 2 days. We've jumped ahead 2 months.
1 days.
Yeah, pretty much. We've jumped ahead 61 days.
Okay, sure.
But we're going to jump back again immediately. So, waste of time. So they've been searching for Aenea for 63 days, visited 8 systems, and the constant deaths and resurrections are wearing on him and his 3 Swiss Guard companions.
Yeah, that would suck.
Dying and being resurrected constantly every few days sucks. De Soya no longer dreams of Aenea or his sister like he was doing back in Renaissance Vector, but of Armageddon, of burning orbital forests and worlds of flame.
That sounds dramatic.
So remember how I said they visited 8 worlds? Let's go through all of them in great detail.
Let's
right now.
Not.
Well, too bad. That's what the next 40, 50 pages of this book is.
Can you summarize it in like 40 to 50 seconds?
Nope, but it's going to be a few minutes. Remember how, like, we know for a fact they visited 8 systems without finding Aenea, so we're going to spend these pages discussing 8 complete failures of finding somebody.
That's wild.
It's amazing.
He's amazing.
This is such a decision. Like, this book, okay, I think it might be a good time for me to talk about why I have skimmed, like, I've cut out so much of this book. And I don't know if it's because it's the first-person narrative that makes it so, like, in Raul's head, which is not a very interesting place to be, honestly, or, like, what, but there seems to be so little plot in this book and so much, like, unnecessary world building and detail. It just feels like it's trying to be more a feeling than a story, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Does.
So that's what all this is, I suppose. So the first world they visited was Tau Ceti Center. And this part of the book is basically remind you of all the important plans from the previous books and how they all ended up joining or being controlled by the PAX. So TC Squared basically went through a 30-year famine when the Farcasters collapsed since they imported all their food and had no agriculture. There's a lot here about the Archbishop of TC Squared being a very powerful and engaging in political jousting with the Pope even, but none of it really matters. I think, like, I don't think it ever comes back again, so I'm just going to skip it.
Maybe not.
There's like 7 pages of them talking about like the Archbishop's politics. I just do not think it matters.
I can't tell you if it matters or not. I feel like it's a toss-up.
Yeah, that's my thing. If it is, mea culpa. Anyway, due to these politics, they're delayed on TC Squared from the 3 days they expected to take visiting each planet to over 8 days. They post guards on the inactive Farcaster portals on the River Tethys and tell them to, like, alert them if anything happens, so good. Also, some of the Swiss guards are laid up with an illness for a day or two, some that seems to be caused by the constant resurrections, which may be an issue later or may not be. So, here we go.
I hope it's not, because it's always funnier when it's not.
So they warp to Heaven's Gate next, which, if you remember Heaven's Gate is, Danielle?
The one that wasn't really heavenly.
That's true. You remember what important thing happened on Heaven's
Did it
Gate?
get blown up?
Well, it did actually, but that was at the end of the book, but way before that.
Is that the slave planet or whatever? The
Kinda.
indentured servant planet?
Yes, that's the one where Martin wanted to be a poet.
Where he got his concussion or whatever and then had to...
Yeah, I can only talk in
and
swears.
had to relearn how to be a writer and toilet paper.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're interested in that, feel free to listen to our Hyperion episode.
If that sounds like utter nonsense to you.
Yeah. Martin Salinas learned to be a poet on toilet paper because of a concussion. Doesn't sound interesting. I don't know what to tell you.
No, it wasn't a concussion. It was like cryo disease, like a cryostasis disease.
Basically an overinflated concussion.
Okay,
brain damage.
Sure. Yeah, it was brain damage for sure.
Fun. Those were easier times with easier plots, Sam. Who knew?
So the plan, the sequence of visits to different planets that laid out by the ship, Soya notices, will take them closer and closer to Earth for a time, like to the old Earth system where Earth was before the big mistake.
They drove Earth into space.
No, well, before kinda. Before the AIs stole it, basically, and screwed it away to the Hercules cluster.
It doesn't make it better if you say it in different words.
Nope. I just want you to say honk honk again.
Drove the Earth into space. With the moon.
Everyone thinks it was destroyed.
Just took the whole solar system and
no, the moon's still there. The moon was left behind. Somehow the moon was left behind, but the Earth vanished. I don't know how that works.
Oh, gosh.
Because without the Earth orbit around, where would the moon go?
I'll never get over how many sci-fi books want to drive planets into space.
It's wild. I mean, I thought it was zero, honestly, if you'd asked me that question earlier.
There's not even just one. There's multiple.
We got the what's the other one? I don't remember the other one that does it.
Gods themselves. Who's that?
That was the second one. There's two we got. Hyperion.
There's a third one. What's the third one?
That's what I'm trying to get at.
There's a third one. Listeners, what was the third story that we had that tried to send a
like a planet or the moon into space or something?
Was it your other Halle Berry one?
Yes, it was Moonfall. It was the Moonfall.
Also driving moons into space.
Yeah, pretty much.
So many.
Nailed it.
Yeah. That I remember. Endymion? Nope.
Again, there's not a lot of plot. You got the feeling in the book, I think. It's just not the plot, because there isn't much. Anyway, so Soya thinks wistfully that one day he'd like to visit the old Earth system, even though, like, it's nothing but, like, Mars and the moon, which are backwaters now. But just to sort of visit, to, like, as a pilgrimage, I guess, to the home system of humanity.
Sure.
But alas, it's not to be for him.
Day.
So they have to spend 8 days also on Heaven's Gate, since the planet was destroyed during the Ouster invasion. And pause. So, if you recall from the last book, the Ouster invasion was fake. It was the AIs pretending to be the Ousters invading, right? So, my question is, because there's a meta-narrative here where Raul is in his space coffin writing this whole story.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Right? Even the parts that aren't about him, he's like, I know those parts too, and I'll tell you about that later. So he is writing, these are his words, he is writing, and he chooses to write about his weird sexual tension with a child.
Why not? He's locked in a box, so he can just say whatever he wants now.
That's the point I'm putting out there, but returning to this weird part. So that was fake Ousters, but the story here treats them like the real Ousters. So is it that Raul doesn't know that the Ousters were actually the AI in that instance? Or does Soya not know? Because I thought they all knew about the betrayal of the AIs. That's like what made the church turn against the AIs and cast them out as evil and demons.
Did it specifically say the Ousters caused it?
They said it was the Ouster invasion.
That's true.
It didn't say the fake Ouster invasion. It said the Ouster invasion, but the only Ouster invasion I remember is the fake one. Weird. So I am I don't know, maybe Dan Simmons forgot about what was real, what was fake.
I mean, to be fair, that is a lot to remember.
Regardless of whether they're real or fake Ousters, that destruction caused the Farcaster arches to be buried in the toxic mud. So Soya has the arches excavated and like put in, bubbles of atmosphere so that if Aenea comes through them, she won't die immediately and they can capture her.
Kind of him.
And so he sets a guard up on there to let them know, and then they leave. Next, they go to System NGC Superscript ES2692. The numbers are not superscript.
Okay.
Catchy. Look, if I had to read these names, Danielle, I'm going to share them with you. You're going to suffer with me.
Yeah, I am. Trust me.
There's one planet that supports life in this system. It's, I think, called NGC ES26926 with the Roman numeral 6.
Sure, why not? Well, the other numbers are in regular non-Roman numeral? Why?
Yes,
why?
Because the system number is 2692, and then you order the planets, like the first planet would be Roman numeral 1, the second planet would be Roman numeral 2. So the number
dumb.
planet. Yep. So you don't confuse the planet number with the system number.
Just put a dash or something like everybody else.
Danielle, please. Dashes are expensive. Roman numerals are cheap.
It's so dumb.
We don't have enough toner for all those dashes.
I really think we should do it that way. I love a mix of random regular numbers and Roman numerals, but it shouldn't.
And like superscript and subscript.
Why not? But no. It's so unnecessarily confusing.
Well, there you go. Here we are. So this planet is a jungle planet that the river was extended to for aesthetic reasons, since no one really lived there except for like animals created from R and A seeding of the planet, whatever that means. Also, a minimum population of biologists and botanists and things like that were living on the planet. And those people got trapped there when the Farcaster's system failed. And so they did what humans do best, breed.
Got it on.
Yep, but their population was kept small because they're constantly being eaten by the wildlife they created.
And there weren't a ton of them.
So that's funny.
That is sad, actually.
Yeah, so they're not considered like part of the packs. They're just considered, gone native, I think is the term he uses. Since there's no packs here or technology really, he has no way of knowing if Aenea came through this way. And if they did, they would have just left. They could have just left on the ship without him being able to tell where they went or gone through the other portal. So, I don't really know what his plan is here to do anything about this. It sounds like
he's just hoping to get lucky.
He is, Danielle, and you won't believe how lucky he gets.
I will, because it's a book, and I feel like he wrote himself to a corner, so at some point they just have to look out. Somebody's got to look out one way or another.
Yeah, that's right. But to Soya, to his Swiss guards, they to ask him hey, how do you know she's even on the river? She could have left on the ship. She could be literally anywhere. He's I have a feeling she's on the river, so we're going to keep searching the rivers. He just has a feeling about it.
You know what? I think there's an architect somewhere along the way that she might want to see.
Exactly.
I have a feeling.
He's I have a feeling. Yep. I had a dream about an architect, so we'll go that way. So he laments that robotic archangel ships would be able to complete this whole mission in 8 days because they could just zip from planet to planet without slowing down or waiting for the resurrection. But because the church hates everything AI, that's not an option. So he's stuck to do this task.
Sounds like they have their own problems.
Indeed. So he decides to search the river for any sign of a ship, and by chance, they find something buried in the mud below the river. Gregorius dives down to investigate and finds... What does he find, Danielle?
He finds Martin Salinas.
No.
He finds the ship.
He finds the wreck of a pleasure barge with a bunch of skeletons on board, including children, which they speculate they got trapped and decided to all commit suicide by scuttling the ship.
Why would they do that?
Because they realized they were trapped on this jungle planet with no hope of escape or survival.
They could have just lived their lives like the botanists.
Yeah, I don't know, Danielle, but that's what they're speculating. Sad. It's very sad. So they leave behind motion sensors to see if someone comes through the portal, which, because there's no fat line squirts, they won't get notified in any reasonable amount of time. So I'm not sure, hey, 6 months ago that motion sensor went off. You'll go back and check on that? Because they don't have faster than light communication anymore because the fat line's down. So what's the plan here? What are the motion sensors going to do?
It's better than doing absolutely nothing.
It's really not. It's about equivalent to absolutely nothing, I would say, and uses more resources.
That's true.
Anyway, the next jump to Barnard's World. You remember Barnard's World?
I remember the name. I do not remember anything about it.
It is the home planet of everyone's favorite character from the first book.
Barnard.
No. Saul Weintraub.
I was who's my favorite character?
You know it's him, right?
I did like Saul. I just thought not necessarily my favorite character.
Most likable character.
Yeah, since the most empathetic.
Yes. I should be clear about it. I don't mean the best character, the one that, the one I'd most like to be stuck in a room with.
Yes.
So Barnard's World has done very well for itself. It was an agricultural and intellectual world, so universities and farms, which is quite a combination.
It is. Good job.
And so weather the fall all right. Again, no ship, no sign of the girl. So they next go to System Last Sail 9352, maybe? Sure. I don't know how to say that. Home to what had been known as Sibiatu's Bitterness, but had been renamed to Grace.
Why not?
Why not? I got these facts, and you're going to learn the facts with me. I expect you to recount all of this in our next summary.
I'm going to do the exact same thing I did this time, which was they were traveling on a river or an ocean.
Except these people weren't. They're traveling through the Archangel ships and getting murdered and re-resurrected.
Yeah, I won't remember this part. I will only remember that they road tripped on a raft.
So this planet is toxic, has a toxic atmosphere. So the river had been built under a clear perspex tunnel, which has since cracked open and has flooded the river with toxic gas, and the river has evaporated off. So,
probably not there.
Probably, hope not. So Soya knows he'll need to send troops back here from their next world with packs to keep an eye on this portal in case Aenea shows up. Why they did the jungle planet, I don't know. But he's depressed about making people suffer like that and experiences some doubt. And honestly, I think Soya is unquestionably the most interesting character in this book because he actually has some internal conflict and some wrestling with his morality, and it clearly has some growth. And Raul is just kind of a big doofus. So I don't know. I just think I think it's really interesting how the character who is writing the story and who we get the first perspective of is by far less interesting than Soya, who is the most empathetic to me, I think.
Why would they ever go to that planet?
He doesn't know what their plan is. If they're in a spaceship, they could survive it pretty easily.
I suppose. But he thinks they're traveling by the river, potentially.
But maybe traveling down the river on the spaceship.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Like flying from portal to portal. He doesn't know. So as they prepare to leave again, Gregorius points out that some of the Tethys planets, 18, are actually controlled by the Ousters these days, which will make visiting them pretty hard. Soya has no response.
So he's just hoping for the best? Hoping they're not going to an Ouster planet?
Yep. And Gregorius like, they could already be with the Ousters. They could have gotten there like day 1. So this is day 30 or whatever.
That's what she should have done. That would have been hilarious.
It would have been great.
The end.
The architect was on the Ouster world. Who knew? So they next go to, quote, a space between Epsilon Eridani and Epsilon Indo called the Omicron Subscript 2, Epsilon Subscript 3 Eurasian Habitation Experiment.
He just, like, put things into a bowl and, like, pulled them out.
This is like, reach your hand to a bag of Scrabble tiles and pull it in a random handful. Like, that's the name.
Like, I'm not sure if name generators were around back in the 90 whatever on, like,
96.
basic internet. But, like, that's what it feels like he did.
It's so good.
He went to, like, planetnamegenerator.com and just, like...
Omicron Subscript 2, Epsilon Subscript 2, Eurasian Habitation Experiment between Epsilon Eridani and Epsilon Indo.
No.
I love it. So this was supposed to be a neo-Marxist utopia that, no surprise for this particular book, failed miserably and had been taken over first by the hegemony military and now the Pax military.
It probably would have been fine in real life.
Yeah, I mean, like, but Dan Simmons' personal politics aside. So no one had passed through there either, but some of the engineers that they have on the planet, I'm not sure, discover a flaw in the resurrection system on the ship, which they fix, and which Soya hopes was responsible for how terrible they've been feeling from all the repeated resurrections.
Ooh, you wouldn't want a resurrection issue on your ship.
No.
It feels like that shouldn't ever happen.
And so, like, maybe that problem that we're talking about isn't a problem anymore, Danielle. It's just not.
I'm glad that was in the book.
Yeah, me too. If it comes back again, who knows?
If not, I'm so glad it's there.
So their next stop is, guess where?
Hyperion.
No, Mare Infinitus. Why are they Hyperion? Hyperion's on the River Tethys.
I don't know what's on the River Tethys anymore, Sam.
You know that Hyperion was never part of the web.
Sure.
Actually, you should know Hyperion was never part of the web. That was the whole thing. They couldn't bring it to the web because the AIs wanted to keep the Hyperion variable out of the hegemony.
But then I'd have to, like, think really hard about everything, and that's harder than it should be.
I can't be responsible for your thought powers.
Maybe if we did this at a reasonable time of day.
Oh, I'm sorry. A reasonable time of day for whom? Me?
You're telling the story. It's easier to be animated and, like, think about things when you're telling the story.
Even when I'm not, Danielle.
I know, it's rough. I'm sorry. I
so I'll have no
your
guff
late
from
nights.
you, young lady. So, at first, they again have no leads, but by chance, while touring the Farcaster Arches, they pass by a platform which had been attacked by terrorists 2 months ago. Not uncommon on this planet, as there is a good-sized anti-Pax resistance of poachers and the like.
Mysterious.
Soya insists on going to investigate anyway, and he starts by interrogating the platform director. The director indicates that a poacher had snuck on board, planted some explosives, and after they apprehended him, he escaped, pushing one of his captors overboard, where the captor was eaten by sharks. So, bye-bye one Pax soldier, eaten by sharks.
And he was traveling with a 12-year-old, and they had some weird sexual tension.
No, unfortunately, that is not mentioned, thankfully. Because Raul is not narrating this portion directly. We're not inside his head. It wasn't sexual, I promise. So the man then flew around on a flying machine of some kind and set off explosives so that he was shot down by the troops. And then the sharks apparently ate his body too. And with little of it they recovered, they buried at sea.
Those are the details I want.
Yeah. And there was no sign of anyone else on the flying device, so no girl, no bombs, nothing else, and no sign of the flying machine either. Soya is suspicious of the director and quickly determined that he had lied about the hockey map being lost, had actually stolen it to sell for quite a bit of money. Soya has him arrested and finds the mat in his office, full of holes from the flechette guns and covered in blood. Soya, however, seems to recognize the mat not only as the same thing used to help Aenea escape the time tombs, but as the one from the heretical forbidden texts of the Cantos.
The forbidden texts.
Forbidden texts. Soya is reinvigorated with the first clue he's had in months and tells Gregorius they have much work to do.
He's like, oh great, we found something from 2 months ago. We're hot on their tail.
Exactly. Also, Raul is dead. He's been shot by flechettes. He's dead.
The end.
And if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. Also, we know he's not dead because he's telling the damn story.
He's in a box later.
Right. I mean, this is why, like, these kind of stories are like, you might be wondering how I got into the situation. Let me, like, there's no suspense. Let me, like, no. Yeah, because, like, we know everything's fine. Like, there's no, like, tension. Because, like, no, he's not dead. Because we know he's not dead. So I'm not going to buy this fake out.
Yeah. I don't think it's for the audience. I think it's for, what's his face? Soya.
Soya?
Father, Captain, General.
Soya. Nope, not General. It's different rank.
Soya.
Pomegranate? What does a pomegranate have to do with anything?
What does the rest of it have to do with anything?
He's a priest
I don't know
and
his
a captain.
first name.
It's Federico. I've told you like 3 times this episode.
I thought it was pomegranate.
It was Father Captain Pomegranate de Soya.
Yeah.
Honestly. Or you're just trying to cover up your pomegranate snafu.
No, it was not a snafu. I said it on purpose, and I didn't really think it was his first name. It was just the first word that came to mind.
Okay, perfect. So glad.
And why
You
not?
didn't even think of a name. You didn't even think of any random, like, vaguely, like, Spanish-Italian name or something.
Why couldn't his name be Pomegranate? I wouldn't put it past Mr. Simmons.
No, his name is something like Epsilon 62_5 or whatever.
No, it would be Pomegranate, and it would be passed on from his great-great-grandfather, and we'd have 40 pages about the story about how his grandfather.
His name would be something like,
name.
Chaucer or whatever. And it'd be like some story about how he is, like, named for Chaucer, or he's a reincarnation of Chaucer. All right, well, we're leaving it there with the suspense, the cliffhanger of Raul being dead.
We love your books.
I'm having a lot of fun. I mean, look, I'll be honest, I found reading the first 2 Hyperion books to be much less of a slog. I think if I was reading these books just for, like, my own self and not taking notes and trying to, like, constantly think, how am I going to make this into a coherent summary for Danielle, I'd enjoy them a lot more. I think it's like the task I've given myself in explaining these stories have made them less enjoyable, so I'm not just, like, experiencing them as, like, a feeling that they're trying to convey.
Sorry to ruin your fun.
It's not your fault. I think it's a lot of fun to try to make sense of them, too. And I also enjoy making you very angry with details like about flybikes that don't matter.
And you have read them before, so it's fine. You got to enjoy them once previously.
I did. I've read them at least once before. Oh, all right. Well, there you go, Danielle. Endymion, part 4.
Oh, it's where we're ending. Sorry.
I said we're going to end there on the cliffhanger.
Yeah, I didn't hear that part at all. I figured
You're not
we were
paying
wrapping
attention very
up
well
soon,
this episode.
You know what? There's a lot going on. There was somehow very little and a lot going on.
Yeah. Again, there is so much detail in these books. Like, this was a feature of the previous books, but I think it's, like, amplified in these books where
it sounds worse in these.
There's so much more extraneous detail about the world building and the background, like, and everything else. And so much of the plot, like, is moving the characters from place to place so they can have these conversations with nothing like Aenea and Raul, they get on them talking about to go look for the arch, and they get there, and instead of looking for the arch, they just have a conversation about summarizing the previous book about all the AI UI stuff.
Yeah, I feel like the last couple books we were exclaiming a lot on the plot shenanigans, and this feels very much like we're exclaiming a lot on the world building shenanigans. Because
there's virtually no plot. Like, the plot, I can summarize the entire plot of this book as Bronze Thunder Aenea went into the Time Tombs, has come out, and Raul and Endymion has been tasked to rescue her from the new government, which is a weird version of the Catholic Church using the crucifix for resurrection, and they have fled down the river Tethys. And that is what we have so far.
On a journey to discover their true selves.
No, to become an architect.
To become an architect. That's part of her true self.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it would be more specific, Danielle.
You can make this into like a funny little travel rom-com.
And it'd be so much fun.
Catchy little musical background, and then have little shots of them like traveling down the River Tethys with their raft.
Dude, it's like a Thelma and Louise thing.
Yeah.
It'd be more fun.
Minus the dying.
I don't know, Danielle.
Maybe. We don't know what happens to what's his face. There's a good chance he might die in that box.
The Schrodinger's cat box, which is not the Schrodinger's cat. Never mind. I'm not getting back into that. I talked about that in the first episode. Go back and listen to that one.
The not Schrodinger's cat box.
Anyway, I'm not saying it's a bad book, but it's a very different style of book, I feel. Like, suddenly it shifted from a sci-fi, space opera to a philosophy exposition hidden in a bit of sci-fi trappings.
Which is fun, too.
It's fun, too. It's just a very different story. I was like, no, this is going to be much harder to make pod content out of, but we're doing it. And I got to say, Danielle, good job. Thank you.
You too.
All right. Well, if you have any thoughts on if Raul is actually dead or not, you can tell us what you think happened to him at bookretorts.com.
You can tweet, Instagram, or Facebook us at Book Retorts.
If you want to fund our domain, keatsallthewaydown.com, you can support us at patreon.com/bookretorts.
Keats.
That'd be the entire webpage. It'll just be like the word Keats over and over again, like infinite scroll of Keats.
All the way down.
All the way down. Just keep scrolling. There's more Keats. Like, just keep another Keats. Just
this is
more
worth
Keats.
$15. Why are we not doing this?
It would not be hard to make an infinite Keats scroll on the webpage.
So funny. It's so funny.
All right, Danny, give me $15. I will make this happen.
It's so funny.
All right. Well, to see that dream come true, again, support us at patreon.com/bookretorts. Until next time, I don't know, maybe like check if the inflatable raft is in your ship before you go crash into a river?
Yeah, geez, what were you even thinking?
Yeah.
Do your pre-flight safety check.
Obvious stuff. Well, until then, bye.
Take care, everybody.
That reminds me, I got to send you the Martin Salinas page. So read the title of this page for me, Danielle.
Martin Salinas, our poet.
He's our poet. He's the world's poet.
Quote unquote, our poet. Martinites? Is that a thing?
Apparently Martinites is the name the Martin Salinas fans have given themselves because...
Sure, why not?
They care way too much.
Love that.
Do you want to read a poem for us, Danielle?
I want to read a poem.
Read the second poem.
Hyperion, page 25.
Yeah.
He said.
Yep. It's spelled weird.
Soon I shall begin the game. What welcome be the goddess name. Now let us ride and hearkeneth. Why is it spelled so weird? Hearkeneth
this
what
might
I say.
Be Chaucer.
Yeah, it might be what I say. And with that word we ride in our way. And he began with a right Mary cheer? Mary cheer? Mary cheer. Okay, if you guys could see how this is spelled. His tail anon and said, as ye may hear. I thought I did pretty well considering.
You did really well. I took that one on purpose.